Yahweh Yahushua HaMashiach this day. John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. You will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. Another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that come from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There is one that accuse you, even Moses, in whom you trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Exodus chapter 25 and verse 6. – 25 and 6. Or 25 and 1. Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Yasharal, that they may bring me an offering of every man that give it willingly. With his heart ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, and badger skin and shittim wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for sweet incense, onyx stones and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them. Now, Most High willing, when we deal with the sanctuary part, I'll deal with all the things that were stated to be inside of it. But today we're dealing with the oil for the light. Just a little oil for the light. If y'all remember the word for oil was Shema. And you know that was a Shan, the Meme, and the Noon. So now we're looking at the light, because you needed that oil for the light. So we see that in order, well, we'll rehash it. But the word for light is Meor. Meor. That is the word for light. It is Meor. So we're going to look at a few things when it comes to the light. But let's look at the characters that we have for light. Hold on. Pull them all up for you. We have the Ma'im, we have the Aleph, we have the U, and we have the Rosh. Now the root word for Meor is Or, and that's just no Ma'im. So let's decipher that. Let's go through that. Ma'im, Aleph, U, and Rosh. So let's see what meanings we would choose here. So when we look at the Ma'im, we have water, chaos, blood, power, or mighty, or to question. And then of course, you know, we have the Aleph, and we have the ox head, leader, strength, power, headship, father, or taught. So when we look at the Ma'im, we very well may choose water, even though that's the standard thing. I think we could choose water, or we could choose mighty. I think we'll go with mighty. And then when we go with mighty, we could go with power or headship. So we'll go to mighty, power of headship. And then we have the U and the Rosh. So we have the mighty power of the head, if you will. We take that U into play. That junk is just not in unknown. There we go. We have the tent peg, the nail, the hook, to add, to join together, to secure, or the means of the end. We'll go with join together on this one. I say, you know, again, remember, it's not no right or wrong answers most of the time. We're just looking at which direction that I'm viewing point for the direction that I'm choosing to go. That has enough. So just keep that in mind. So we're looking at the mighty power of the head will join you together with that Rosh to the chief. Because now we're going to see why I took this here. The mighty power to join you to the head of the chief, or the most important. Just keep that in mind. So with that being said, let's see why I chose that. Let's see who the head is. 1 Corinthians 11:1. Let me show you why we're choosing this here. Because this is what the oil for the light is. And then we're going to just use a couple examples from what we use and for the oil, and then roll from there. Dang, what I just said I was going to choose. Oh, 1 Corinthians 11:1. And after that, Colossians chapter 2. He said, now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Mashiach. So that's why we chose the headship with the olive. And the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Mashiach is Elohim. And that's why we choose the first for the Rosh. That's why we chose that on the Rosh. That's why we chose the most important. Because once the oil is made to the light, it causes you to be joined to the power of your head, and most importantly, his head or his chief. Which takes us back to what we've seen with the shaman, when you're looking at two being joined to the power, which is unstoppable. You understand? So, we're going to see in a minute. Come over here to Colossians chapter 2. Two and 8. Make it 2 and 6. As you therefore receive Yahushua HaMashiach the Master, so walk ye in him, rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith, as you have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Mashiach. For in him dwell all the fullness of the Elohim head bodily, and you are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power. You see this here? You see the headship of the power? Again, let's reiterate the characters that we're using. We used the Ma'im. The first thing that we used for that is we used mighty. We had the olive. We chose to take that olive and go with the headship of power, or the headship of strength. Or you've been taught of the strength of the head of power, because of the mightiness of that. Or however we want to go, that'll be a little redundant though. So we go to the U. And again, we look to join together. So now that you've been joined together, we look at the Rosh. You're joined together to the first, the top, the chief, the highest, or the most high. You're joined together by the Most High because of the power of the headship, or the power of your head. Like we see in 1 Corinthians 11:1. He's your head. So the power of your head causes you to be joined together to the Most High because of the oil for the light, which is going to be in the sanctuary, which we're going to get to that. So again, when we look at it, we have the Shan, the Meme, and the Noon for Shemin, for the oil. You understand? So again, when we're looking at the Maor, and we're looking at the power of the head joins you together to the Most High. This is what the light will do. It causes you to be joined together to the Most High. All because of what you did with the oil to create the light, which is the shaman. And we looked at it 3 different ways, and we'll rehash and actually read versus examples. And the first one we're going to look at is consuming the blood of the seed, or the consumption of Yahusha, him dying, and what that represented. Acts 5:25. I'm going to try to pick one from each location. Matter of fact, before I do that, let me back myself up. Yahushua chapter 10. It could be chapter 5. And for full never mind. We'll just keep on going. It's chapter 10 what I want. Yeah, that's what I want. 10 and 23. Matter of fact, make it 19 or 18. Yahushua son of Nun, chapter 10 and verse 18. Yahushua said, roll great stones upon the mouth of the cave and set men by it for to keep them, and stay ye not, but pursue after your enemies, and smite the hindmost of them, and suffer them not into entering their cities. For you who are your Elohim have delivered them into your hand. It came to pass when Yahushua and the children of Yasharal had made an end of slaying them, that with a very great slaughter, till they were consumed, that the rest which remained of them entered into fenced cities. And all the people returned to the camp of Yahushua at Makkedah and Shalom. None moved his tongue against any of the children of Yasharal. Interesting. I don't want to spend too much time because I don't want to divert from what we're dealing with. But you notice how it says that they went to war and they slayed all their enemies. And we had rest, and they went into fenced cities. Let me see what the word for fenced is before I make my point, because it could insinuate my point. And I want to make sure before I speak. The word for fenced is mitzvah. It's a fortified city or stronghold, fortification or fortress. So, with that being said, what this sounds like when we translate it to the end is how it says, and the nations that are left that are saved to walk in the light in it, after we have had rest, after the slaughter of our enemies, after the return of Yahushua, or the slaying of Gog and Magog, whichever direction that you want to choose, only because Gog and Magog is slain in the 20th chapter of Revelation, and Revelation 21 and 24, if I'm not mistaken, talks about how the nations that are left or saved will walk in the light of it. And we're going to deal with that light. And we're going to look at light a little differently than we dealt before. That just stood out. Y'all willing, we will revisit it. I don't want to get off the beaten path. Verse 22. But the reason why it came to my mind, I'm sorry, is verse 21 when it says that none of these people move their tongue against the children of Yasharal. Because there would be no, when Yahushua come back, and then when it's set up for the Father to come down to dwell with us, that he may reign and take over all authority as it should be, these people will not open their mouth against you. See, let me show you why it just came to my mind. Psalm 79, if I'm not mistaken. Psalm 79. I think Psalm 79 got what I'm looking for. Psalm 79 and 1. I'm going to read quite a few verses, but I'm going to have to do it for my point. Psalm 79 and 1. O Elohim, the heathen are coming to thine inheritance. Thy Kadesh temple have they defiled. They lay Jerusalem on heaps. The dead bodies of thy servants have they given to be meat unto the fowls of Shamahim, the flesh of thy Kadeshim unto the beasts of their rats. Their blood they have shed like water round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them. We are become a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to them round about us. How long, Yahuwah, wilt thou be angry forever? Shall thy jealousy burn like a fire? Pour out thy wrath upon the heathen that have not known thee, and upon the kingdoms that have not called upon thy name. For they have devoured Jacob, and laid waste his dwelling place. O remember not against us former iniquities. Let thy tender mercy speedily prevent us, for we are brought very low. Help us, O Elohim of our salvation, for the esteem of thy name. Deliver us, and purge away our sins, for thy name's sake. Wherefore should the heathen say, where is their Elohim? Let him be known among the heathen in our sight by the revenging of the blood of thy servants which is shed. This, go over here to Micah chapter 7. This kind of goes along with the seed destroying the chaos. Because when you sit back and you look at it, the chaos is the fact that this is the time of the Gentiles until the Gentiles are ruled until the time of Gentiles be fulfilled. Because it's chaos. Because since iniquity shall abound, the love of many are wax cold. Because iniquity will abound. Lawlessness is rampant. The people of the earth speak against the Kadesh people, and they move their tongue against us with no regard. In the book of Zechariah, it says that the enemies possess them and slay them and hold themselves innocent. We'll read that since I said it. But let me get this Micah chapter 7 first. I just want to show you this is how they've been moving their tongue. So Yahuwah has to shut their tongue, that they will not move their tongue against the children of Yasharal. All because you had oil for light. See, this is a difference. See, if you ain't got no oil for light, they're going to move their tongue. See, this is to sit you know that your Elohim will revenge, and he will repay in due time. Their foot shall slide. Micah chapter 7, about verse 7. See, if you can understand this and you can know this and you can see how Yahuwah used Yahushua son of Nun and those people to destroy our enemies, then you know that you can have the comfort to know that Yahuwah will revenge and to trust in his salvation and wait for it. Therefore I will look unto Yahuwah, I will wait for the Elohim of my salvation. My Elohim will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O my enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, Yahuwah shall be a light unto me. Remember the Maor, and we're looking at Maor from this aspect. The mighty head joined together to the Most High, which takes us again to what a part of the shaman that we looked at on Wednesday, when the joint, a pair of power that is unstoppable, or being joined to two of the power that cannot be stopped. See, Yahuwah be a light unto you when you've made oil for light, and we just dealing with the fact that because he consumed the blood of the seed, or he consumed the son of Elohim, his own seed, because Elohim spared not his own son. You know what I'm talking about? He said, chastise thy son and spare not for his crying. Because the things that he suffered, he learned obedience and was able to bring many sons under salvation through his suffering. So we're going to be seeing this in an aspect in a minute when we look at a couple precepts out of the law pertaining to light and oil. Because of the consuming of the blood of the seed, this was able for you to bring forth the light so that that power of the head could join you together to the Most High. Because at the end of the day, that's the objective and the goal is to be joined to Yahuwah. That's why we started in 1 Corinthians 11:1. Now you can see that the head of the man is Mashiach, and the head of Mashiach is Elohim. So this is how this the aspect we take when you get to that light. When you get to that light, you have received the Ruach. When you receive the Ruach, you join to the Father. Without the light, you can't have any light without the oil, and without the oil, you can't have any light. So therefore, you can't have Elohim. So you're gonna have to be a partaker of the sacrifice in order to be joined unto him. Or we can look at it from the other aspect that we looked at it, that it was the seed destroying chaos, that word destroying sin in a man's heart. If that word is not destroying sin in a man's heart, therefore you cannot produce light. And anything that doesn't make light is darkness. And anything that is darkness, a man not know where he goes. And if you don't know where you go, you headed for death. Very simple. Men overcomplicate this word. Men overcomplicate this word because they play on the ignorance of others. Also in an effort to sound deep unto men, to draw people away after them, or to try to attract women. Because see, I got a question for y'all that I'm going to ask everybody. Some people may not say, but because I just want to hear your take. Truth be told, I just want to see where your thoughts and your perspective is. You know what I'm saying? The word is a very, very strong factor in everyone's life. You know what I'm saying? But as we've all known, this word don't clean up, for lack of a better term, because I wouldn't be able to use the word that I would prefer to use. But a person who has a personality that is akin to defecation, if you will, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to change that. The reason why it's not going to change that, because it's not changed. See, people are not allowing the word to change their heart. Because, yeah, if you got the word inside of you, you should be a merciful, kind, and compassionate, and understanding, and selfless, and giving individual. Those should be aspects of your character. But a lot of people don't have that. They have the projection of that. A lot of people don't really stand firm for the word. And I've said it before and I say it again. It utterly disgusts me, and I do not even appreciate a mass majority of people's participation in the proclamation of the name of Yahuwah. They ought not speak this man's name. They ought not utter it out of their mouth. You know what I'm saying? Because of these men uttering this man's mouth, though it is not possible to defile the name of Yahuwah. These niggas defile the name of Yahuwah because of their hearts by proclaiming this man's name, not in truth nor in righteousness. Nevertheless, Micah 7 and 8. I will bear the indignation of Yahuwah because I sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. Listen what he said. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. So he'll bring. Now, of course, again, right, the root word for Maor is or, which is just the you take off the Ma'im, and you just got the Aleph, the and the Rosh. So again, you still sit back and you look at the head joined together to the Most High, regardless. Your whole objective while you have breath in your lungs is to join yourself to Yahuwah. That book tells you in the 59th chapter of Isaiah that you separated from your Elohim because of your sins. So you can't be joined to him because of your sins, because of your flesh, because of your pride, because of your selfishness, because of your lust, because of your unbelief. It causes you not to be able to come to the light. See, everybody love to scream, light, I'm light, I'm light. Well, if you light, then you'll be joined to the Most High. If you're not joined to the Most High, then you're not light, then you're darkness. I already read verse 8, and I started in verse 9, and then I stopped. So, you got to consider that. You need to know that. You need to weigh that out. Continue. I will bear the indignation. We're in verse 10 now. Then she that is my enemy shall see it. Shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is Yahuwah thy Elohim? My eyes shall behold her, and I shall be trodden down as the mire of the streets. You understand? See, let's go to Zechariah 11 real fast, and then we come back to Yahushua chapter 10. See, these people sit back, and they run their mouth. And then after we read Zechariah 11, we'll go to the Epistle of Jude just because it said that. Because these people run their mouth. And we talked about that last week when we were looking at Numbers chapter 11 with the people with the flesh. They run their mouth. See, I'm going to tell you something, right? Pac put it this way. He said, niggas talk a lot of stuff, but that's after I'm gone. Because they fear me in the physical form. You know, people say a lot of things about Yahuwah because they won't say it to his face. They got an issue with anytime somebody got an issue with you and they won't say it to your face, they're a coward. They ain't really got no issue. They don't really got no problem. They ain't really got no problem. Because if a man got a problem, he'll say it. Hello? What's going on? A man will say it. See, these people got a lot of things to say about Yahuwah. I bet if he was standing right there in front of their face, they ain't got nothing to say. They gonna have a mush mouth.
Don't hit it because then he gonna want to bite you.
Zechariah 11 and 5.
If he bites you, I'm not going to say that, but you hit them.
Make it verse 4. Thus saith Yahuwah my Elohim, feed the flock of the slaughter, who possessors slay them, and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, Baruch be Yahuwah, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. You know, it's crazy because... And it ain't just, see, people use this verse and say, see, that's them Christian pastors. No, he talking about Bruce. See, you sit back and you look at it as our enemies slay us. These niggas don't care. These niggas don't care. I hate to say it. It's just for the simple fact that, because I just had a conversation earlier. Some of these niggas more riled up about that white on white crime down south than they is about black people getting killed. That wasn't nothing but some white on white crime. It's unfortunate people had to die, don't get me wrong, but I don't get bent out of shape by white on white crime. You get bent out of shape by white on white crime? Shoot, I go lay down in the bed when I see white on white crime. Go to sleep. Shoot, you don't see no white people getting bent out of shape by black on black crime, do you? Not at all. Not at all. I ain't mad at them. They supposed to be upset. Shoot, that's their churn. That ain't my churn. I ain't got nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? But I will say that they do certain things to allow an emotional response to happen so they can try to steer the public in the direction that they want them to go, which is voluntarily giving up their weapons or causing the people to have such a dissension amongst each other over a particular matter that it's easier to manipulate them and direct them in whatever direction they want to go, because people are not seeing eye to eye because they're too busy arguing with each other and making arguments and statements based off their emotions rather than rational logic and thinking. You know what I'm saying? Because they're being dictated by the emotion of grief, anger, and probably a couple other ones, but they escaped my mind at this time. Back to Yahushua chapter 10. You know, I done told you all before, man. That's real talk, man. You don't never want to make a decision or have any thoughts about anything when you're in an emotional state. You would rather let the period of that emotion pass. This nigga here crazy. So you can think better. You know the people see you do that too. Yeah, right now they see you do that. Now you're ashamed. You know, don't never do that. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of people who choose the person they be with based off the rush of emotions that they may feel when they in that initial stage of dealing with somebody. So they overlook serious flaws. See, that's what our people do in America. You know, we just continually overlook the flaws of how we're treated in this country by these people, irregardless of what they do and how they say it. Because all they have to do something is trigger an emotion of feelings and butterflies, and you feel a lot better. We were just having this conversation earlier. I ain't mad at nobody who want to see Black Panther. But some people were using the comparison of why do people want to see Black Panther but they didn't want to see Birth of a Nation. And it just comes down to it's a comic book character over a man who killed white people. Someone who most the average black person is heard of, but they're not familiar with enough to, I am invigorated and engaged that I want to see his story. You know what I'm saying? Versus a comic book character who they've seen in a couple Marvel movies, maybe even read the comic, you know, and they can play dress up. You couldn't play dress up to go see Nat Turner. Ain't nobody wasn't finna put on no 1800s suit on talking about let's go kill some crackers. You know what I'm saying? You can't have the same level of fun with that they can have with Black Panther. Now also my point was too is that the marketing budget, you have a Disney marketing budget versus an independent marketing budget, so I can promote this movie and place it in way more theaters than he can. But at the same time, somebody will say that Black Panther is a positive image for black people and it's not a slave. Well, I could say that Nat Turner was a positive image for black people, irregardless that he was a slave. He was a man who stood up for justice and freed his people from oppression and was willing to lay his life down in the pursuit of that. What more positive image would you want? And he was a real person. This nigga came out the mind of a white man. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this was a real person. You know what I'm saying? And it shows the mentality of our people that we love fiction and fantasy over reality, and that we'll try to use fiction and fantasy to boost up our self-worth and self-esteem, that we can do certain things versus reality. And that's sad. And that's really, really sad. You know what I'm saying? I'm not disparaging anybody who want to see the movie. You want to see the movie, go see the movie and enjoy yourself if that's what you're into. I'm not into comic books, and I'm not into comic book movies. You know what I'm saying? I like Batman. Never probably read a Batman comic book that I can remember in my entire life. I just remember the cartoon. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about no comic book. But I can say that we should not follow the narrative of Nat Turner couldn't be a positive example for a black man because he was a slave over somebody who's supposed to be the prince or king of a fantasy African country, when Nat Turner as a man possessed the ideals and attributes that any real black man should want to possess and want to impart to his son. This man stood up for his own people and was willing to die for it, and actually did die for the freedom and redemption of his people. Like, he didn't sit back and talk about it, he rode. He rode. He knew people were going to tell on him. He knew people were going to snake him. He rode anyway. And then on top of that, his inspiration to ride was the word of Elohim itself. So again, it just shows you the perspective and mentality of black people, that we prefer fantasy over reality. Because I don't know the character name in Black Panther, but he ain't real. There's no kingdom that country doesn't exist. The city doesn't exist. This man doesn't exist. Nat Turner lived and did something that 95% of these niggas who dressed up in dashikis would never do, which is go against their oppressor and lay their life down for their people. You know what I'm saying? Straight up and down. So which one is a more positive image? I can't pull no positive image from no fantasy. Not me. Not me. Not me. I ain't finna be inspired by no fantasy. That's not a real person. That's not a real person. This man never lived. Yahuwah never breathed breath in his lungs. This movie really, in all aspects, to the most root level, shows that our people are in a very bad state mentally. That we need to be uplifted by a comic book character. You think about that. Let that rest in your brain for a moment. That our people, and I've seen people say this, that this is a win for our people because we need this as positive image. We need to be uplifted by a comic book character. We will seek upliftment and fulfillment from everything and everyone but Yahuwah Ba'Shem Yahusha. I don't need no upliftment from Black Panther. At all. You know what I'm saying? At all. Not from no comic book character. Shoot, if that's the case, nigga, you niggas might as well read the 42 Laws of Modesty. We stopped at verse 23, man. Verse 22. Y'all something new. You know, if y'all have a different perspective, you might, you know what I'm saying? By all means, you know, express yourself. That's just my perspective on it. That's what I've noticed. You know what I'm saying? Then said Yahusha, open the mouth of the cave and bring out those 5 kings unto me out of the cave. And they did so and brought forth those 5 kings unto him out of the cave. The Malach of Jerusalem, the Malach of Hebron, the Malach of Jarmuth, the Malach of Lachish, and the Malach of Eglon. Came to pass when they brought out those kings unto Yahusha, that Yahusha called for all the men of Yasharal and said unto the captains of the men of war, which went, let them come near, put your feet upon the necks of these kings. And they came near and they put their feet upon the necks of them. And you know what that is? That's taking us to what we talked about last week in Genesis, and also which is quoted in Romans. You'll bruise his head. Yahusha put that foot on his neck. And nevertheless, Yahusha said unto them, fear not, nor be dismayed. Be strong and of good courage, for thus shall Yahuwah do to all your enemies against whom you fight. Pause. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. I actually seen too somewhere that said that Black Panther's character is actually married to Storm from X-Men. I found that to be very interesting, because some people were upset that that was left out of the movie. 1 Corinthians 15 and 20. Which I could see how that could be left out. That would be kind of hard to try to integrate another character from another franchise in the film, which they probably didn't want to do. Make it 19. If in this life only we have hope in Mashiach, we're all men most miserable.
It's going to start a whole new series of.
But now is Mashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so is Mashiach. So even so in Mashiach shall all be made alive. And again, this is still touching on, whether y'all catch it or not, to reiterate the fact, this is touching on the oil of the shaman. This is catching on that, which is consuming the blood of the seed. Because Mashiach died and he was consumed, he left his seed in order for you to be joined to the power that can't be stopped. Now, of course, the aspect will go again in a moment to looking at how the seed destroys the chaos, how that word can destroy sin in you if you let it, which will allow you to be able to make light. And then we'll look at the parable of the 10 virgins, and then we'll look at it from a different perspective than we may have looked at it previously anytime we've ever read it, whether as a collective or individually at any point in time in our life. So every man in his own order. Mashiach the first fruits, and afterwards they that are Mashiach's that is coming. Then come the end, when he shall deliver up the kingdom to Elohim, even Abba, and when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and all power. For he must reign till he have put all his enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. See, and this is the reason why we can see in Genesis where he say he'll bruise his head or step on his head. Because he's got to put his enemies underfoot. You know, sit here till I make your enemies thy footstool. And you turn it around, you come back to Yahushua chapter 10 and verse 25 is where we start, right? Well, verse 24 is what we mentioned, but we're going to pick up at verse 25. They put their feet upon the necks of their enemy. Their enemies became their footstool. Now, I know some Christians use that term to even make your enemies your footstool. But you got to understand something. When you have the oil, which meaning that because you believed on the... Let me do it like this. Go to Romans chapter 10.
Maybe we say, you know what, hey, I got a
10 and 8.
A 10-minute video shot I want you to do. 15 minutes. But that 15 minutes is one of the top 15
Make it 6.
You gotta,
but the righteousness which is of faith speak on this wise. Say not in thy heart, who shall ascend into Shamahin? That is to bring Mashiach down from above. Or who shall descend into the deep? That is to bring up Mashiach again from the dead. For what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. That if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Master Yahushua, and shalt believe in thy heart that Elohim have raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believe unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. You know, Psalms 118 or 116, you know, tells you, I believe, therefore I have spoken. See, if you believe, then therefore you will confess. You will confess because you believe in your heart. And what if you believe in your heart that this man has overcame death and stepped on the neck of his enemies and defeated them? See, he done already put Satan underfoot. He done put sin underfoot. The only thing he hasn't put underfoot yet is death. You know, because I don't always mention, but you know, today, well, yesterday technically, my auntie would have been 60 years old. I can only imagine the type of how she may have even viewed the process of life, the manner of life that I now have. I would hope that maybe my auntie would say, you know what, I'm going to roll ahead and with that. Because 9 days from now will be 18 years. 18 years since she been dead. You know what I'm saying? My life has changed dramatically in 18 years in numerous different ways. You know what I'm talking about? But the most powerful thing that has changed in the midst of that is after she died, I want to say 4 months later, I caught my first felony. About 4 months later. You know what I'm saying? And I can remember sitting in there, you know, just because you want something to read, you don't got nothing to read. So I ain't saying that I'm in here reading the Bible just because I'm incarcerated. And I'm reading this book, and I have no idea what it's talking about. I have no idea who is it talking to, what is it talking about, and what is it actually trying to convey. So you're just reading something for the sake of reading it. And now you come back 18 years later, and praise be to Yah for Yahushua. I can read this book. I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know exactly who he's talking to. I know exactly what he's talking about. But most importantly, I have taken it and actively, and most importantly, proactively applied it to my physical existence, that therefore to bring forth the manifestation of the fruits and power of the living Elohim, that all men may know that Yahushua was sent by Yahuwah. See, and the purpose of that is what? Because that's the consumption of the blood of the seed, or the consumption of Yahushua, and then taking that same word and allowing that seed to destroy that chaos or that sin or that evil heart or that unbelief that existed. So if you've heard that word, this is why we came to Romans 10, you heard that word, then you will believe. And when you will believe, then you will confess. And if you will confess, then I mean not only have you confessed that Yahushua is the son of Elohim, but you have confessed your iniquities and set them to the side. Because see, that's what you're going to do if you're going to sit back looking at you trying to get some oil for life. Because remember, the oil was a willing sacrifice to bring into the tabernacle, to place into the sanctuary. See, y'all willing, we're going to talk about the sanctuary next week. Unless I can, depending on how far we get with this light this evening. Because we could touch on it tomorrow afternoon or on tomorrow, y'all willing. So, think about that. The oil is something that is offered freely. Yahushua was offered up freely. He said, "No." He said, "I lay my life down to myself. No man take it from me." That's a free will offering. That's free oil. That's the consumption of the seed, of the blood of the seed, and it was free. He willingly did it. You understand? You got to remember that. Go back and look at Exodus chapter 25 and verse 1. They tell you that to offer these things willingly out of a man's heart. That's a free will offering for that oil to put in that sanctuary. These were the things that were needed for the sanctuary. And it was offered freely. The people had to offer that freely. So he did that freely. So then you freely need to sit back and let that seed destroy that chaos in you. You're not letting the word do its job. We had this conversation the other night. I will have this conversation in more detail with y'all willing on tomorrow. Knowledge means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing if you are not see, you can have all. That's why Paul said, "I can have not." Let me read that to you. 1 Corinthians 13. I just read it to you. That's just all I'm gonna do. Knowledge ain't bad, but it don't mean nothing if you ain't doing this right here though. 1 Corinthians 13 and 1. He said, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of Malachim and have not love, I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understanding all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains, have not love, I am nothing." That don't mean nothing. If you don't love Yahuwah, that don't mean nothing. I don't care how much knowledge you got. I don't care how much wisdom you got. I don't care how much understanding you got. And better is a man with a little bit of wisdom and obedience than a man with great wisdom and disobedience. Understanding of that. I don't care how much you know. That's not impressive. Because we done came across too many people who knew a lot of information, but they didn't actively use it. The scribes and Pharisees knew a lot of book too. You niggas ain't know that. They knew a lot of book. And believe not. So knowledge is not the end all be all. It's just a part of the equation. Your faith and your obedience trumps all of that. Because if you ain't known enough, Job 28 and 28. If you don't know enough not to sin, what good is it for you? What good is it for you? You got to ask yourself that question. Now, I'm not saying that apply to none of y'all. It's just some of the conversation that we had. And knowledge is good to attain. But knowledge, let me tell you something, right? Even without the word. Knowledge without action is useless. It's useless. I don't care how much knowledge you attain if you don't use it. If you don't put it into action. Hello, Abigail. Job 28:28. But back it up some.
Yes, Isaiah.
Job 28:22. Hey, Abigail.
Lil, come here. Listen. I read what you did.
Destruction and death say, we have heard the fame thereof with our ears. Remember, this dealing with him going to preach to the spirits in prison. Elohim understand the way thereof, and he know the place thereof. For he looked to the ends of their wrath, and see under the whole Shamahim. To make the weight of the winds, he weighed the waters by measure. And when he made a decree for rain and a way up for the lightning of thunder, then did he see it and declared it. He prepared it, yea, and searched it out. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of Yahuwah, that is wisdom. And to depart from evil is understanding.
It just go and just get around.
You fear Yahuwah, that's wisdom. You can depart from evil, you surely understand.
You went and made some.
Remember, Elohim has came and given us an understanding that we may know him that is true, and that we are enemies that is true. Even thy son Yahushua HaMashiach, this is the true Elohim and eternal life. Don't you know you'll get life if you depart from evil? You know how many niggas say, I understand the script, ain't departed from evil, so you ain't got no understanding, dumb nigga.
You say something that
I want y'all to be able to know, understand, and have as much wisdom as Yahuwah gives me to be able to impart unto you. Because I will not leave a single drop in me by the time this man take my breath away. That I, like Paul said, I will not hold back nothing unto you that is profitable for you. But if you do not take it and actively apply it, it means absolutely nothing.
Something else.
Nothing. It means nothing.
But
You have to take it and you have to use it. Most of us have sat back and mentioned classes we took in high school that we don't use now and how worthless it was. So how you going to deal with the word and not use it? Don't be around here worrying about trying to recite no precepts. You need to recite the precepts in your heart and use them. That's what you need to do. That go for everybody, myself included, everybody, in every situation, every time. You need to use them. Back to Yahushua chapter 10. I got to crank off, man. It ain't but 9:40, but still, I feel like I'm going too long. You know, praise be to Yahuwah, man. His name is mighty and just. And he's an Elohim of judgment. Verse 25. Yahushua said unto them, fear not, nor be dismayed, be strong and of good courage. For thus shall Yahuwah do to all your enemies against whom you fight. You got to understand something, right? He said this is what, remember what he said in Romans 16? He said, let's just read Romans 16. We just read it again. You got to remember, he said, you got to understand something. Look at the visual. And then when we come back to this Yahushua 10, because again, did we just focusing on the consumption of the blood of the seed? And the visual that he's using of putting your feet on the neck of your enemies. This is what Yahuwah will do for you against everyone whom you fight. Now we done took it a different aspect, so you already really know what it's expressing. It's expressing Yahushua defeating the adversary in sin for you. And that if he is in you and you are in him, then this is what he will do for you. For all your enemies whom you fight. You know what? Pray the Lamb. Pause. Before we get Romans 16. Isaiah 54 and 15. And it's still a tie back into what we talked about Wednesday briefly. Praise Yahuwah for the word. 54 and 11 because I'm feeling good. It said, O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest, and not comforted, behold, I lay thy stones with fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires. I will make thy windows of agates, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy borders of pleasant stones. If you don't know what he's talking about, go read Revelation chapter 21. He's telling you about it. He's telling you about New Jerusalem. I just don't have time to go into great detail right now. Go read it, search it for yourself. Just throwing your son out there. And all thy children shall be taught of Yahuwah, and great shall be the shalom of thy children. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression. Thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Score. Come on over here to Revelation 21, man. You take a look.
Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm always listening.
Let's look at Revelation 21. 21, I might as well read it to you, man. Something to look forward to. 21 and 12. So we always got to take a pause of what we're looking forward to. What are we looking forward to? Hey, Abigail. Make that 21 and 10. He carried me away in Ruach to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, Kadesh Yerushalayim, descending out of Shamahim from Elohim, having the esteem of Elohim, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Say her light. Again, there goes that light. So again, when we're looking at light, that's the joining to Elohim, joining to Yahuwah. Just to keep it in the most simplest terms, without using all the words, to be joined to the Most High. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you join to the Most High by the head. See, you can't be joined to the Most High without Yahushua. Now, so you can't just keep it just like that. So you have to have him to be able to do it, because that's what you're joined together to. You're a card with him through that. And had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 Malachim, and the names written thereon were the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Yasharal. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, on the west 3 gates. The wall of the city had 12 foundations, and the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall thereof. And the city lie 4 square, and the length is as large as a breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and breadth of the height of it are equal. He measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of a malachim. And the building of the wall of it was jasper, and the city was of pure gold, like unto clear glass. You know, we always mention that how it say streets, but right here it said the city was pure gold. Pure gold, like transparent glass. And we've talked about this before. I don't think anyone can even fathom gold that looked like transparent glass, gold that you can see through. We've all seen white gold, so that's about the only closest thing that we can rationalize with our human mind. The foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth a topaz, the 10th a chrysoprase, the 11th a jacinth, the 12th a amethyst, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold as it was transparent glass. So not only is the streets of the city like this, the whole city is like this. That's how I should refer to it. We overlook the fact that it say the city is of pure gold like transparent glass. The whole city. Not just the streets, the whole city. Of course, the book tells us that we can't even fathom in our mind what Elohim has that is prepared for us. But remember that what we're looking at in Exodus 25, which is reiterated in other places in Exodus, which is reiterated in the Chronicles of the Kings about what was in the temple. The temple and the tabernacle of witness, which are one and the same. One was just moving and the other was permanently fixed in a location, are emblematic of what it looks like in Shamahim. So think about that. You got to think about that. It's just a picture of what's in heaven. So when you look at those vessels, the gold, the silver, the brass, the utensils, the furniture, you need to see that as that you are those vessels, or you're that silver, or you're that brass that's in that house. That he was using those inanimate objects to describe animate objects, namely you and me. So again, we talking about mindset, talking about changing your mindset to see yourself with your Elohim. If you can see yourself with, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I told them they had a defeatist attitude about a particular matter. They was like, it doesn't matter, it's not going to work. If you go into a matter and you believe that it will fail, it will fail, because you've already failed before you started. Because you didn't even go into the venture with the thought of having success. So already a piece of your heart, a piece of your soul, a piece of your mind is not even engendered to do the things necessary to breed success, because you're already prepared for defeat. Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson because he had no fear of Mike Tyson before he got in the ring. He believed that he could beat him. He wasn't scared of him. There was no fear. If you go into things like, oh, this ain't gonna work, or she's not gonna listen, or he's not gonna believe me, or you going into this with negative expectations, then the negative outcome is usually what you're gonna have, because that's what you're gonna perpetuate, because that's the mentality that you have, that's the mindset you have going into the endeavor. If you go into, regardless if you're successful or not, if you go into the endeavor with the mind frame that I'm going to win, that I'm going to accomplish that, the likelihood of you being able to do that is higher, because you're going into it looking to win. People always tell you, you can't stop sinning. No, you can't stop sinning, because you go into it with the mind frame of, I can't stop. So of course you're not going to discipline yourself enough to stop, because you've already told yourself that you can't. So clearly, if you can't then you won't. If you go into it with the mentality of, I will not sin, therefore when you're faced with temptation, you'll overcome it because you know you have the ability to do so. Because you have affirmed this by the word of Elohim and then in your own heart. Everything is about the things that you say to yourself and the things that you convince yourself of. Nevertheless, back to Isaiah 54. We just had to go ahead and share that. You should know from verse 13. He said, your children will be taught of Elohim, and great shall be the shalom of thy children. Say, in righteousness shall thou be established, thou shalt be far from oppression, thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Say, your enemies no more fear, no more terror. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. And there go Gog and Magog. Because he said they'll gather together, but not by me. We don't need to go read it. Y'all know in Revelation 20 it says Satan went out and deceived the nations. Said they didn't. He said they're going to gather together, but not by me. And he said when they gather together, they're going to fall. And we know what he already told you was going to happen. That's what I'm telling you. The story is there. The prophecies are there. They're there. He's telling you what he's going to do. So how you can't trust him? He's telling you what he's going to do. All you got to do is believe him and obey. Behold, I've created the smith that blow the coals in the fire, that bring forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. And every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, and their righteousness is of me, saith Yahuwah. Everybody like to use that verse. No weapon against thee shall go prosper. They don't read the rest of it though. He said every tongue that rises against thee in judgment, you'll condemn it.
Well, that's right there.
Now the story that I was referencing that we talked about Wednesday that will relate to this is that the weapon that was formed against Joseph by his brothers did not prosper. The weapon that was formed against Joseph by his master's wife screaming adultery did not prosper. His righteousness was of Yahuwah, which caused him to be set at the right hand of Pharaoh and have rulership over the whole land. And therefore setting him over the whole land during the time of famine, that he saved many souls alive. And that when his brothers rose up against him in judgment, he was able to condemn them for their actions against him. See, people don't like to hit that second part. He said this is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah. That whatever hand anybody tries to do against you will not prosper, but that if they were to rise against you in judgment, you would be able to condemn them. Let's show the existence of what we're talking about. Luke chapter 21. And then Romans 16. So again, with the judgment, that any tongue that rises against you in judgment, you'll condemn it. Again, this is the seed destroying the chaos. Just a different avenue. He's something to think about. Something to consider. 21 and 10. Hey, Abigail. Hey, Tubby. You're not Tubby anymore. You're just Isaiah. Then said unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilence, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from Shamahim. Excuse me. But before all these they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And they shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what you shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and a wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. See, because somebody will sit back and look at, he died. That weapon didn't prosper because they're not going to get no gain from that. Because like he said, like Jeremiah said, if you kill me, surely you'll bring innocent blood upon your head. We know that Yahuwah finds that to be an abomination. And then we also know that the law say innocent blood you shall not shed, because he will have to shed the blood of him who shed innocent blood. It's only right. So whatever they did didn't prosper. But he said, but you'll be able to rise up in judgment against them and condemn them. And notice what he said, that righteousness will be of him. He told you don't settle in your heart what you're going to say. Because you know in another place where it states the Ruach HaKodesh, and that very hour will tell you what, will give you what you ought to say and what you ought to speak. So that righteousness is of him. All for the purpose of that seed destroying the chaos. All because of the consumption of the blood of the seed. Because remember, he said they will kill you. They will kill you and think they do Elohim service. Because it's a twofold thing if you're looking at the oil. You're going to be either be consumed by the people because of your holding of the word, or it's Yahushua being consumed. This depends on which avenue you want to take. Let's look at John 16. You think you, and are we dealing with this too? That's why I say we might not get to the sanctuary, because we got to work our way to get to the light. You got to think about that. You either going to be consumed for the word, and you got to let that word consume your flesh. What you going to do? Unless so you can be joined to a power that can't be stopped, which means you bring forth light, which is you being joined to the head, or the strength of being joined, the strength of the head joined together to the Most High. Because what was the strength of Yahushua? It was his faith in Yahuwah. It was his trust in Yahuwah. It was his joy in Yahuwah. See, when you look at joy in Yahuwah ain't just singing and dancing. It ain't just clapping and smiling. You joy and you delight. Remember what Paul said, I delight after thy Torah in the inward man. He said, I told them, seek ye the ancient paths and you'll find rest for your souls. They say, we will not walk therein. See, that's the key thing, right? You should want to be around people who have a joy for the word of you. Do you have a giraffe? Huh? Grandpa gave it to you? Do you like it? Where you go then? Carry on, Elizabeth. Carry on. You have to think about that. Because we had a conversation. I had a conversation. And this is real talk, right? A lot of people profess the things about this word. Portray a lot of things. Show forth righteousness or whatever the case may be. But they ain't really on that for real. And the only way that you can tell that somebody's on that for real is over time. Because one thing for certain, two things for sure. It's only so long a fake thug can pretend. You can only pretend to be righteous for so long. Eventually, y'all gonna pull your skirt up. Eventually, he gonna pull your skirt up. You can only pretend to be something you're not for so long. See, one thing that fake people don't like is time. Because time will reveal them. That's why they go from person to person and dealing with different people. Because they know if they can move from person to person and dealing with different people, I can never be exposed for the fraud that I am. Or fake people don't like to have real close dealings with anyone. Because over time you're going to get exposed. People who are authentic in whatever it is and whatever they do, they have a consistent application of behavior. It's the same thing day in and day out. So they don't care about time, because time is going to do nothing but prove out that they are who they say they are. They don't have problems dealing with people in a close fashion because they're going to see them for who they are, and they're not worrying about time revealing them. Because time is the enemy of a lack of authenticity. Time is an enemy of fraudulence, because you will be exposed. It's not if, it's when. You understand what I'm saying? So I forgot what I was doing. I had a point where I was going to say, but then I just remembered. I didn't remember where I was going. So when we're looking at and it's Romans 16 where we're going. When we're looking at that seed consuming that chaos, and you allowing that word to consume that chaos, it's because it's that you have believed in your heart and you've confessed with your mouth. You joy in this man's word. You delight in it. You delight in submitting yourself to his will. You delight in the execution of his judgments. You delight in the adherence to his precepts and his statutes. You delight in that. See, people want to take the joy as you just smiling. Hey, I'm clapping and praising and worship and all that there. That don't mean you joy in Yahuwah word. Because when it come down to this word, say you can't do this. And when we say can't do this, meaning that, remember, all unrighteousness is sin. And anything that is not of faith is sin. That's Romans 14:23. And the epistle of the Apostle James told you that if you know to do good and don't do it, that's sin. So you have to look at that aspect of it, because we just sit back, look at certain things as just do's and don'ts. See, like 1 Kings 13 with the man from Yehuda, see, that was sin for him because he didn't do that out of faith. He didn't believe what Yah told him. So that was sin unto him. What precept did you can sit back and look at what he didn't do what Yah told him to do, but what precept in the law did he break? He didn't love Yah with all his heart and all his strength and all his soul. He didn't believe in him. So that was sin unto him. You understand what I'm telling you? If you know to do what's right and you do what you want to do anyway, that's a sin for you. That's a sin for you. That's a transgression. So you have to look at that, because everybody doesn't joy in doing what's right. Everybody doesn't take delight in obeying this man's word. See, we take delight in talking about it. We take delight in singing and clapping and dancing. How many people it really delights them to walk in this Kadesh way? They really get joy from that. Because again, we talking about what Paul stated in Romans 7 about verse 20 or 21. I delight after the Torah, after the inward man. I mean, that's joy for him. I joy after this man's laws. I joy after this. And when I'm talking about law, we talking about that Torah. We talking about beholding the sacrifice of the head. That's what we talking about. I take joy in that. I get joy from that. Remember, he said the despise and the shame. Hebrew 12, man, you gotta take joy in that. That's the joy of Elohim. The joy. Don't get me wrong, it's a joyful thing to sing and clap to Yahuwah's name. Joyful thing. But shoot, you can fake that though. Y'all know that. Y'all seen plenty of people in church. They seem like they seen plenty Hebrew too. Seem like they had a lot of joy singing and clapping and dance. Wicked though. So that don't mean nothing. Twelve and 2. But when it come down to Joseph is an example of he joyed after the law of Elohim. Man, I can't sleep with you, baby. You got a husband. Is you tripping? Even in the midst of being in affliction, locked in a jail cell, I joy in Elohim. I ain't like, man, I'm locked up for obeying that man word. That's what niggas do. Looking unto the Yahushua, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the stake, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim. He say for the joy, it was a joyful thing for him to die. He say the joy set before him. He endured the stake. I know if I die, if they consume the seed, the blood of the seed, I can sit down at the right hand of Elohim. I can be a son of Elohim. I can possess eternal life and dispense it to all those who love me. That was the joy that was set before him. So when you look at, if you take up your stake and you follow him and you deny yourself daily, then you're looking at the things that are set before you. That's why we went and read Revelation 21 from that Isaiah 54. You don't see that ain't joy set before you to be in the city that look a pure gold that look like transparent glass. That's not a joy for you. That's not a joy for you to be in a city where there's no temple in it, but Yahuwah Elohim and the Lamb are the temple of it. Is that not a joy set before you that there shall be no death there, nor night there, nor crying? But the mark of Elohim will be in his servants' foreheads, and they shall see his face, and they shall serve him. That's the joy set before you for enduring the state. Can you allow the seed to destroy the chaos in you? Will you allow the consumption of the blood of the seed to dwell in you? Well, we'll put it this way. Not to dwell in you, but will you die with him? You were immersed into his death. And what do you have, young lady?
I put a flamingo.
That is correct. That is a flamingo. Very good. Carry on. Think about that. Just think about that. The joy set before you. Do you deserve? Are you going to endure the stake? Are you going to endure self-denial? Are you going to endure that for the joy that is set before you? Because that's what Mashiach did. Again, and that's mind state. That's mind state. You gotta have a different mind. And they gotta have that mind of Mashiach. Mashiach joyed for the word. Do you joy for it? Do you have a joy for it? You know what I'm saying? You got a joy for it. You got to have a joy for it. Yahushua chapter 10. Let's finish that and get this Romans 16 and move on to the next thing. Praise Yahuwah Elohim for the word, though. See, that's the part that you're supposed to look at when you talk about friends, potential mates, and all that type of stuff. Where they joy at for the word? I'm trying to tell you, you don't want nobody around. You don't want to be married to somebody who just want to be married. You know what I'm saying? You definitely wanted to be married to somebody who's just doing the word, but they don't delight in it. Cause a lot of people just doing it, but they don't delight in it. And there's a difference. You can tell somebody who has a joy for the word itself, for the belief in it, for the obedience of it, and then that's to come from the discussion of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I got something else to ask y'all tomorrow too. You who are willing. This is a little different. Ain't really about this, but a couple things, man. Just to sit back and look at certain things, right? You know what I'm saying? This is assess yourself. Like you gotta ask yourself, man. You joy after that? Does your wife joy after that? Does the woman you're courting or the man you court, do they joy after that? Because that can show you what you potentially join yourself to. Outside of just other stuff. Of a natural ability of them as individuals. But that joy. Who want to be married to somebody who don't joy to the word? And that's what Yahuwah wore, because we didn't joy after the word. It showed too. You know how it showed? Because as soon as Moses dipped, you made a golden calf. So clearly you didn't have a delight for it. Get what? They was out there smiling, singing, and clapping and all, wasn't it? To a false god. That's why I show you. That don't necessarily mean nothing because you're singing and dancing and having a good time. You joy in Yahuwah. Because the law show you that. Because they surely was out there. They said they rose up to play. They were having a good time. Worshiping an idol. Yahushua 10:26. Afterwards, Yahushua smote them and slew them and hanged them on 5 trees. And they were hanging upon the trees until the evening. And it came to pass at the time of the going down of the sun that Yahushua commanded. Then they took them down off the trees and cast them into a cave wherein they had been hid, and laid great stones in the mouths of the cave's mouths, which remain unto this day. So of course y'all know that's paralleling Yahushua's crucifixion, or the consuming of the blood of the seed. King Royal in this instance. But let's look at something in Romans 16, right? And again, this consumption has to be done to join you to this life. To join you to the head. Because Yahushua is your head. And you want the power of the head. So again, you want the ma'im, you want that power or that might. You want the might, and then look at the olive for the headship. So you want the might of the head, or the power of the head. So when we take the we sit back and look at you being joined together. So you want the power of the head to be joined together to the Rosh, or the chief, or the most high, or the most important. So what is that power of the head that can cause you to be joined to the Most High? And that power is faith. And that faith is that Yahushua died and that Elohim rose him from the dead in the 3rd day. And because of the consecration of the veil, that is to say his flesh, he has consecrated us a new and living way that we may have boldness. You know what I'm talking about? So again, by the blood of Yahushua to enter the Kadesh of the Kadesh. And remember, we dealt with the blood, which is the Dam, which is the Daleth and the Ma'im. So we could sit back and look at the water of the door, or the door of water is how we looked at it that day. Or we could sit back and look at it as the door to the Most High. Because the blood is going to get you to the Most High. Which means, pause before we look at Romans 16. John chapter 6. Because at the end of the day, Yahushua's objective was to get you to Elohim, was to get you to Abba, which is to get you to Yahuwah, to get you to the Most High. He said, if you believe on me, you believe on him that sent me. Which takes us back to what a shepherd or a pastor was supposed to do, is to get you to Yahushua, which is going to get you to Abba. That's the objective. That's the objective. That your faith won't stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of Elohim. That your faith will stand in the power of Elohim. The last thing anybody wants, like, I don't care if you're a pastor, shepherd, teacher of the word, I don't care what it is. I don't care if no regular woman. Shoot, I don't even care if it's no man. You ain't following the woman, but nevertheless, don't nobody want to be joined to nobody who's stupid, who's listless, who is undisciplined. You know what I'm talking about? Who wants to be joined to that? Who wants to be joined to that? It doesn't make any sense. This is why Yahuwah rejects sinners. This is why he said, don't you know that the master, that he that are in the master are one? He said, shall he be joined to the body of a harlot? Elohim forbid. You don't know he's one? You think he wants something to do with that? What woman want to follow an idiot? We ain't in the old times where your husband is chose for you. You can pick your husband. And you're going to pick an idiot? You're going to pick a coward? You're going to pick a simpleton? You're going to pick a wicked man? And conversely, if you're a righteous man, you're going to pick a whore? And when we talk about harlot, I'm talking about, when I say whore, I'm talking about what it say in Proverbs chapter 7. Her mouth is loud and her feet don't abide in her own house. I ain't talking about her slinging no butt everywhere. A loud-mouthed woman who stay in other people's business. This is what you're going to choose? It say a wise woman build a house and a foolish woman plug it down. So you're going to put a woman who's going to destroy her own house? That's what you'll choose. How dumb is that? Ain't no way in the world you delight after this man's word in the inward part. Ain't no way in the world. That's impossible. Because that's what I say with the thing I'm after. And that's why I understood the perspective. Because truth be told, the characteristics that most people would find ideal in an individual should be a wellspring of life coming up out of them if they actually deal with the word. Now, personality is something totally different. You know what I'm saying? That's something totally different. But that wellspring of life should emanate out. You know how many people call themselves a virtuous woman? The book tell you, say, many people proclaim their faithfulness, but a faithful man who can find? You got plenty of people, I'm a righteous man. I'm a virtuous woman. Well, nigga, you the only one. Put it to you this way, right? I'm trying to think of how exactly word this in my head. I'm going to say it wrong. Oh, you speak of yourself. You know, the book tell you don't boast of yourself, let another man do it. If you got to tell me you're a virtuous woman, you probably not. If you got to tell me you're a righteous man, you probably not. Ain't nobody, because if you were, somebody would vouch for you. If you were, somebody would vouch for you. If you got to vouch for yourself, and I'm just speaking of what they said to Mashiach. He said, I speak of thyself. And he said, I do speak of myself. He said, but if I judge, my judgment is true. Ain't none of us him, though. So don't try to use his words to try to justify you boasting of yourself. The book tell you don't boast of yourself. Let another man do it. So if you're a virtuous woman, it'll show. Somebody say, she a virtuous woman. Remember, virtuous woman is a strong woman. That's a solid woman. That's what they're going to tell you. Somebody's going to speak. They're going to say that for you. If you're a righteous man, somebody will say, that's a righteous brother right there. That's a Kadesh man right there. That's a good man. If ain't nobody doing that on your behalf, then you probably not. Then you probably not. If ain't nobody doing that for you, you probably not. If you the one have to do it, and ain't nobody else doing it, yeah, you might want to check yourself. It's just what the word say, man. That's all I can tell you. I'm going to tell you what the word say. You can do with it what you will. John chapter 6, though. It would help if I was in chapter 6 now, wouldn't it? 6 and 67. I'm sorry. 6 and 64. We'll read 63 and ain't going to hurt me. It is the Ruach that quicken, the flesh profit nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are Ruach and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Yahushua knew from the beginning who they were that believed not and who should betray him. And he said, therefore I said unto you that no man can come unto me except it were given unto him of my Abba. You can't come to him unless Yahuwah do it. You can't come to Yahushua unless Yahuwah do it. No, Baruch is the man whom thou chosen, whom you called to approach unto thee, to enter into thy courts. Blessed is that man. Huh? Blessed is that man. But let me deal with another aspect of the consuming the blood of the seed, which allows the seed to destroy the chaos. Exodus chapter 9 and 14. Because it's after 10. I got to do it. I got another word that we got to use. Got another word that we got to use. I just want us to consider. We could do with stuff as we want to do, but we need to consider. That's all we need to do. Just consider. And once we consider and we see the way that the word of Yahuwah said we ought to go, then that's the way that we ought to go. Nine and 14 or 13. We started this on Wednesday, so that's why I got to pick it up and grab it now. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say unto him, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of the Abarim, let my people go, that they may serve thee. For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thy heart. For at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou may know that there is none like me in all their rest. For now will I stretch out my hand that I might smite thee, and thy people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from their rest. And in very deed for this cause, I have raised thee up, for to show in thee my power, that my name may be declared throughout all their rest. The word for power is koach. And we simply have the kaf and the kot. Simply just have the kaf and the kot. So let's see what we would choose if everybody had. Hopefully y'all have y'all characters primed and ready, so you're ready to look at those whenever need be. So we have open palm, and we have to bend, to allow, to open, to tame, to subdue, to work, or to be filled. For this particular instance, we will not use open palm. We will not use bend or open or allow. But we very well may use, we will use tame or subdue or work, or the work to subdue, or the work to tame. Because we're looking at the context of what we're looking at, and he's talking about that what he's about to do to him was for the purpose of taming him and subduing him. So now we come and we look at the kot, and we have a fence, a wall, a divide to protect or surround. So on this one here, we would simply look at it. This is the work to tame or subdue, so that you can be separated. Why? Because of the context of what we're looking at. The work that was being done to Pharaoh to subdue him or to tame him was to cause us to be separated from him. You understand? This was for us to be separated from the Egyptians. Remember what he said. Hold on. We'll just read it off the page. I hope y'all can follow me. If anybody got any questions, don't hesitate to throw them out there when you feel the need to throw them out there. I just hope everybody can follow me. Exodus 11 and 5. So think about that when we're looking at power in the context of what we're looking at here. It's the work to subdue that will separate. The work that Yahuwah just said is, I will send plagues upon you, and I raised you up for this very deed. I raised you up for this particular purpose, to show my power in you. This does correlate with the oil, which is consuming the blood of the seed. Because Yahushua was raised up for a particular purpose, to perform a work that would subdue sin and tame sin and subdue and tame death. You know what I'm saying? So that you could be separate. And then because you're separate, then you have that oil for life. Nevertheless, though, where do we want to take it? I had something in my head. Golly, I'm getting old. And that he said that this work would be done so his name would be declared throughout the whole earth. So this is what I want to do. Jeremiah 16. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. He was raised up, and we know all the plagues. Oh, that's right. I said Exodus 11 and 5. Praise the Lamb. He ain't failed me yet. Because, boy, my mind is getting bad each and every day. I don't think my mind was this bad when I was destroying it with marijuana. (11 and 5) of Exodus. Make it verse 2. I'll do that. Man, make it verse 1. That's all right. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Mizraim. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor jewels of silver and jewels of gold. Yahuwah gave the people favor in the sight of Mizraim. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Mizraim, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, in the sight of the people. So, pause. It says that Moses had favor, and he was great in the sight of these strangers. Luke chapter 23. Hold this Exodus 11. We'll show you how Yahushua was great in the eyesight of these strangers. Luke 23. Just bear with me. We gonna run it down. Do it right. Let me see before we go to Luke 23. I'm trying to pull something else. Luke 23 and 7. Well, we'll make about verse 4. Or 23 and 3. And Pilate asked him, saying, Art thou the Malach of the Yahudim? And he answered and said, Thou said. Then said Pilate to the chief priests and to the people, I find no fault in this man. And again, I want y'all to take this account. This is still tying back to no weapon formed against thee shall prosper, and the consuming of the blood of the seed, and also the seed destroying chaos. All of these things interrelate as forth as the two aspects of oil. We just mentioned light, but you who are willing, we'll deal with light and more in-depthly on the morrow. But we just setting it up. We mentioned to you what it is now, so your mind can already be thinking about it. And Pilate asked, he said, Thou said, and then said Pilate to the chief priests and to the people, I find no fault in this man. Again, he's showing favor with Pilate. Pilate is a stranger, just like the Egyptians was a stranger. Because remember, even though we were in our land, it was under Roman occupation, and Yahushua was very great in the land of Yasharal at that time. His fame went out the whole land. He was very great. That's crazy that you in your own land, but you were a stranger in it. And they were more fierce, saying, He stirred up the people, teaching throughout all Yahudim, beginning from Galilee to this place. When Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who himself also was at Jerusalem at that time. And when Herod saw Yahushua, he was exceeding glad, for he was desirous to see him of a long season, because he had heard many things of him, and he hoped to have seen some miracle done by him. Then he questioned him with many words, but he answered him nothing. And the chief priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. And Herod with his men of war set him at naught, and mocked him, and arrayed him in a gorgeous robe, and set him again to Pilate. See, he was a great man in the eyesight of the Egyptians. He was a great man in the eyesight of Pilate. Pilate said he was he was very, very glad to see this man. And Yahushua wasn't even studying this man. He didn't care nothing about what he was talking about. He wasn't going to answer nothing he had to say. Back to Exodus chapter 11. We'll get to Romans 16 in a moment. Y'all willing? Moses said, Thus saith Yahuwah, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Mizraim. And if y'all remember, Yahushua was out in the midst of Mizraim at about noontime on that state when it went dark. Nevertheless, and the firstborn in the land of Mizraim shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sit upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. I ain't got time to play with this nigga. You already know what that nigga finna come in. That nigga already at the door. You seen what he did?
What?
Came right over here. Them niggas have been there for him and been ready. Said, but there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Mizraim, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. Just like when Yahushua cried out on the stage. But against any of the children of Yasharal shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know that Yahuwah doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Yasharal. So again, remember, the power to be raised that Yah was putting on Pharaoh and putting on Egypt was for the purpose of a work to subdue, which would cause a separation. And he just told you this, that you need to know that there's a difference between he that has power to rule as Elohim and Mizraim. You need to know that there's a difference. So when you consume the blood of the seed, then that shows that there is a difference. See, if you want to receive the Ruach, you got to understand that there has to be a difference. And that's the power of the sacrifice that separates. There has to be a difference. There has to be a difference in you. And that difference is coming because you believe. Remember, the trust and the joy of Yah is your strength. You wonder why a lot of people fold. Because they don't have no trust and they don't have no joy. They don't delight. They don't delight in this man. Say this way, their ear is uncircumcised. The word of Yahuwah, they have no. Jeremiah 6:10. They ain't got no delight in it. See, Yahushua had a delight in the word. Yahushua was given the commandment to die. And he delighted to do it. Because he thought about the joy that was set before him. You have a commandment to die. Do you delight to do it? Do you see the joy that is set before you? That's the question you got to ask yourself. I can't see. I say certain things and ask certain things because those are rhetorical questions, for lack of better usage, for yourself. It ain't for me. Jeremiah 6:10, because I can't answer them for you, nor can I move you to do them. You can only answer them for yourself. You can only do it for yourself. To whom shall I speak and give warning that they may hear? Behold, their ear is uncircumcised, and they cannot hearken. Behold, the word of Yahuwah is unto them a reproach. They have no delight in it. Let's look at the word for delight real quick. They don't delight in the word. That's why you see niggas doing the stuff that they be doing. Niggas delight in regurgitating and reciting knowledge, but they don't take a delight for the hearing of the word to do it. Because he said, who shall I give warning that they may hear? You know that's the shama. That's to hear with the intent to do. But when we look at delight, it's kafats. And that's the delight in to take pleasure, to desire, to be pleased with, to be pleased to do. You understand? So when we turn around and we look at, we got joy in Yahuwah. And I'm finna pull the word joy up in Nehemiah 4:10 and see what the word is. Do you really have a joy to do it? That's the question. Do you take pleasure in it? Do you delight to do it? Because see, if you don't delight to do it, then you're not going to submit yourself to it. Because you're going to treat it as a burden. It's not something, that's Nehemiah 8:10. My bad. That's not something that you looking forward to doing. This is why niggas fall and crumble. It ain't no real delight. It ain't no real delight. And if you don't delight in it, it's best not to even do it at all. Now the word for joy is kadava. Gladness. Joy. Are you glad to serve Yahuwah? Do you have joy to serve Yahuwah? Does it make your heart sing to stand for righteousness and to be Kadash? Or do you be like, here come the Sabbath again. I can't do this. I can't do that. You're not enduring the state. You don't have the joy that's set before you. You don't have a joy to enter this man's kingdom because this man's word is a reproach to you. It's a dishonor. You have to delight in the actual application of his righteousness. Nevertheless, let's look at the plagues or the power and the consuming of the seed of the blood. which allowed that seed to destroy the chaos. We do have another examples that we could use for the seed destroying the chaos, but we have to do that as a standalone because it was a good idea, and I just can't. It wasn't my idea though. I can't work that in here this evening though. In Luke chapter 22. Now y'all know from John chapter 11 that the scribes and the Pharisees sat down, Caiaphas prophesying specifically, that Yahushua would die for the people. And that they people put together to put this man to death. You know that they did all of these things. So that's the part we're looking at of the weapon formed will not prosper. Because it didn't prosper. And we still got Acts 5 and Romans 16 on deck. And y'all willing, we're going to get to them. We're going to pick this up probably about verse 50. And one of them smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. And Yahushua answered and said, Suffer ye thus far? And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Yahushua said unto the chief priests and the captains of the temple and the elders which would come to him, But be ye come out as against a thief, with swords and staves. Remember, we talked about thief last week. So you coming out against me like I'm carrying people away from Elohim? That's how you coming out against me? I'm stealing people away from Yahuwah. Y'all think about that. Think about that because we talked about that last week. This is Yahushua's response to them. Y'all coming out against me as if I'm one who's stealing people away from Yahuwah. I want you to come to Jeremiah chapter 23. Jeremiah 23 and 26. Because I want to go here because of the aspect of what we're looking at. Because the chief priests and scribes were evil. And they sent these people out to take him as if he was a thief, as if he was carrying people away from Elohim. But they were the ones who were carrying people away from Elohim. Excuse me. Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 26. Make it 25. I have heard what the prophet said, that prophecy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets, that prophecy lies? Yea, they are prophets of deceit of their own heart. See, it's a lot of brothers and sisters out here that they deceive their own heart. And they deceive their own heart because of their own lust. And that's what we were talking about when we were looking at Numbers 11 and them graves of lust. Because they deceive themselves because of their own heart. See, that's why I say the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who could know it? That's why it's better for you to make you a new heart and a new ruach and have the mind and heart of Mashiach. Now I say, right, you can look at somebody and the word will be manifest in them. And that's what you should look at and you should desire that. And then after that, you can see if it meshes. And I'm talking about any relationship. Significant other or friends, because you could be in the word with somebody and you might not necessarily can be friends with them. See, we had a conversation yesterday. You know how solid Jonathan had to be for David and them to look at each other and say, boy, I love you more than I love my woman. You know how solid of the word is what bonded them. But you know, it was the man that they were and their friendship towards one another. Jonathan went against his own daddy at the expense of his life for this man. That's why the book tell you there's a friend that stick closer than a brother. You know what I'm talking about? Because even David brothers were talking trash about him when he came out there on Goliath. But Jonathan rode with him at the expense of his own life. Now, of course, it's the word that they share mutually, but it was their friendship and Jonathan and David as individuals. Of course, they don't go into great detail. Clearly, for you to say you love a man past your own wife, past the love of a woman, then it's the character and personality of this man. This man is my friend, a real friend. You don't have too many friends like that in your lifetime. Because we all know people who we done had links to the word. Them niggas weren't friends. Some people are with people who in the word. That nigga or that woman ain't really on that. See, sometimes people just pick people to be around because they say they're in the world, but them niggas still kind of worldly. And you still got worldliness in you, so that's your bond. You bond on that. Because we all should have a bond to the word. That's a given. But everybody ain't really in the word. Some people own the word, but they ain't in the word. You don't want to be on the word, you want to be in it. Because when you're in it, you're in Yahushua. And if you're in Yahushua, then you in the Father. Which is the last aspect of the oil we looked at, and the aspect of how we looking at life. Nevertheless, I lost my pot. There we go. Verse 27, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. The prophet that have a dream, let him tell a dream, and he that have my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the chaff to the wheat, saith Yahuwah? Is not my word like as a fire, saith Yahuwah, and like a hammer that break the rock in pieces? Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets, saith Yahuwah, that steal my words, every one from his neighbor. Behold, I am against the prophets, saith Yahuwah, that use their tongues, and saith, he saith. Behold, I am against them that prophesy false dreams, saith Yahuwah, and do tell them, cause my people to err by their lies and by their lightness. Yet I sent them not, nor commanded them. Therefore they shall not profit this people at all, saith Yahuwah. But that's strong words right there. This man sat back and said, look here, man. These men stealing my words, every man from his neighbor. Now what them scribes and Pharisees were doing, they were stealing the word away from the people to carry them away from Elohim. That's why y'all sit back and think about it. Now, of course, on a natural level, they came out on him like he was stealing, like he was a thief. But at the same token, remember, he said he was the Malach of Elohim. He said he was the son of Elohim. So they were insinuating that he was a thief by causing to steal the people away from him. Do you not remember what it says in John chapter 11 and around about verse 47 or 48, if I'm not mistaken? They say if we don't stop him, then every man shall believe on him and we shall lose our place in nation. They felt like he was stealing the people away. When in reality, they were stealing the people away from Elohim. And he say, any nigga like that, anything they preach, anything they teach, ain't gonna profit this people at all. And you wonder why a lot of our people don't get no gain from the word. Because it's the nigga they listening to. You ain't been, son. The word is clear. You ain't gonna get no gain from this nigga. Because this man is stealing my words. He's stealing you away from me. And you think you gonna get gain from being stole away from me? You have to be high on something. See, we think it's a game when this man say, I will give you pastors according to my heart to feed you with knowledge and understanding. We can't, niggas feel like we prophets of the Lord. We all got to teach. Hey, we feel just like Moses feel, man. Envious thou for my sake, would Yahuwah that all his people would be prophets. But that's not Yahuwah's will. Clearly, we see that in the book. We see that in the book. See, I'm gonna be honest with you, right? This is my personal perspective and opinion on the matter. I don't have no text for it. You can take it for what you will. Anytime I hear niggas be like, we all supposed to be prophets, and you ain't the only one, Korah type nigga and all that other type of stuff, that's a nigga who's really wicked in real life. That's really wants to steal the words of Elohim away from the people and lead the people away from Elohim. Because they have an insecurity of some type and they need to prop themselves up by throwing themselves out there by saying Yah sent them and he sent you not. And you speaking and he commanded you not to speak. That you were not given that unction to participate in such activities or labor. You know what I'm saying? So, because why else would an individual say that? Very rarely will you hear anybody who's sent by you who will tell you that they were. Mashiach didn't walk around telling the people he was sent. It only came out when they pressed him. Other than that, he kept it to himself. What is there to tell? Nigga, my work show you that. I ain't gotta tell you that, nigga. You can't tell. Luke, man. Luke 23. Well, not Luke 23. Come on to Mark 15, man. Or Mark 14. You had to watch, and they around here stealing the word. They stealing the word. Stealing the people away from Elohim. And he said they ain't going to profit these people at all. But he said, remember, but Yahushua was raised up for the specific purpose that I might let my power be known on him, that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. That my name might be declared. Praise Yah for that. Praise Yah for that. Mark chapter 15. Let's look at some of the things that he suffered to consume this blood of the seed. But also how we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, how that seed destroyed the chaos. But we're going to focus mainly on, I raised you up for the specific purpose to let my power be known on you. Because I need to have a work to subdue you to cause a separation. This word should subdue you to cause a separation. If this man power is in you, if this man power is on, if his power is made known in you, if his power is made known in you, sin would be subdued in your mortal body. It's without question. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And I guess we're going to have to make a visit to another place. But just bear with me. Let's look at some of the stuff that they did to the son of the living Elohim. Verse 16. Let's look at the things that he did to make his power known. The first thing that we looked at is that they captured him. That's the first thing we looked at. And if we got to move around to grab everything, we will. Another thing we looked at before we got to this point is that they put that robe on him and mocked him. In that Luke 23. Say the soldiers led him away into the hall called Praetorium, and they called together the whole band. And they clothed him with purple and platted a crown of thorns and put it upon his head, put it about his head. And they began to salute him, Hail, Malach of the Yahudim. They smote him on the head with the reed, and they did spit upon him, and they bowed their knees and worshipped him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple from him and put on his own clothes and led him out to crucify him. But we actually not going to grab the spot to read it. And then y'all know they blindfolded him, right? And smacked him around. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that spot in John when they asked him about, hey man, what you got going on, what you taught? And he ain't say nothing, the dude slapped him. And the master said, why, if I spoke evil, then good, but if not, what you hit me for? Because remember what it said in Exodus, and I'll refresh it. In Exodus 9. In Exodus 9, he told you about how that he would do all of this. He would put these plagues upon his heart. He put these plagues. So it was already in the heart of Yahushua to die. We already established that. Because if he put these plagues in his heart, I mean he put them in his mind. I'm going to cause you to suffer. Because if you sit back, think about it. Did he literally put locusts in Pharaoh's heart? Did he literally put darkness in Pharaoh's heart? No. These sufferings or these afflictions or these tribulations was to cause him to consider, so he would subdue himself so he could be separated. But he didn't want to subdue himself, but he did that to separate us from the Egyptians. So when we sit back and we look at it, and we already read to look to the author and finisher of your faith, Yahushua HaMashiach, who endured the stake and for the joy set before him sat down at the right hand of Elohim. He thought in his heart, he considered in his heart, each of one of these plagues caused the work of subduing to be done unto him. This allowed him to separate himself and receive the Ruach HaKodesh upon his resurrection, so that we could become the sons and daughters of Elohim. This is how his power was made known in him. And therefore, after that, the name of Yahuwah is declared in the earth. Because he said, I came in my Abba's name and you received me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. When you preach Yahushua, you preach Yahuwah. Because no man can come to the Father but by me. Whosoever believe in me, believe on him that sent me. He said, if any man would do his will, he would know of the doctrine in his mind, or if I speak of myself. He said, he that speaketh of himself seeketh his own glory. He said, but he that speaketh of him that sent him, the same is true, and there's no unrighteousness in him. That's why I said what I said earlier when nigga got to tell you, I'm son. Or I'm this or I'm that. You seeking your own esteem. And every time you can be able to pinpoint that these niggas had unrighteousness in them. Because they trying to play the game like they repping Yahuwah. But you really repping yourself. Because you have low value. And you have low self-esteem. And you have insecurities. And you need to be propped up by the people. This is why this man say, they want to be seen of men. When you look at all the righteous men in this book, they didn't care about the accolades of men, nor being seen of men, nor cared about any of that. And it goes back to a key thing. And thinking upon that perspective, thinking about it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I seen it then, but I'm talking about going on it, like I told you before, honest, real, authentic people seem to be the people who gravitate to Yahuwah and actually obey. But then I was given another perspective, and that's the perspective of confident people. Confident, self-assured people will clearly have confidence in their Elohim. And their faith seems to be stronger than other people who have insecurities and are not very confident people. And through my experience dealing with the word, I have seen that. I have noticed that. You know what I'm saying? I've noticed that. The reason why I say that, because when you say how can you believe that seek honor from one from another and not the honor that comes from Elohim only? I noticed that the people who needed validation from other people and sought that that righteous obedience of faith in them was not as strong as those who didn't care what people thought about them, nor was seeking the honor and accolades of men. I noticed that their righteous obedience of faith was exponentially stronger than the latter, or the former, I should say. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at that. You have to look at that. This is what I'm saying. Y'all can consider, man. You take it, do with it what you will. You know, that's just what I've noticed, and maybe I'm retarded. I don't know. We'll drop down about verse 29. And they that passed by railed on him, and wagging their heads and saying, Ah, thou destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. Save thyself and come down from the state. Likewise also the chief priests mocking said among themselves, With the scribes he saved, others himself he cannot save. Let Mashiach the Malach of Yasharal descend now from the state, that we may see and believe. They that were crucified with him reviled him. Now, of course, we know he ends up dying. I want you to come to Jeremiah 16 now. We will look at Jeremiah 16. And Yahuwah willing, when we slide into this light, y'all willing to make a lot more sense. (16 and 14). Because remember, because of what was done, and remember that was Passover, right? Because of what that was done, the name of Yahuwah was proclaimed in the earth, and the power of Elohim was put forth upon this individual. Because we're talking about a work to subdue, to cause a separation. We need to allow this word to come through in our hearts and subdue us, so that there can be a separation. If we don't do it, ain't going to be no separation. After we read the Jeremiah 16 and 14, we're going to go to Micah 7 and 17. Say, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I should no more be said, Yahuwah lived, that brought up the children of Yasharal out of the land of Mizraim. If we remember, think everybody, put your memory go back. You can remember that Jericho heard of the name of Yahuwah because of what happened to the Egyptians. Rahab, specifically, heard about Yahuwah. King Eglon, all of these, King Moab, the king of Moab, in numbers. They all heard of Yahuwah. His name was declared throughout the whole earth based on what happened in Egypt. They all knew. The power, the work, the power of the subduing to cause the separation. Well, I'm sorry, the work of subduing to cause the separation, they all knew. Remember what Moses said when the people were sinning? All our enemies are going to say, you took us out of Egypt to kill us in the wilderness and you couldn't bring us in the land. They heard about that work that subdued Pharaoh. The same way these people heard about this work to subdue Satan, so that you could be separated from sin and death. Nevertheless, Micah 7 and 17. Praise Yahuwah for the word. Praise Yahuwah for salvation. You ought to praise Yahuwah for the work that subdued the call to separation. That's what we ought to do. 7 and 17. They shall lick the dust like a serpent. Remember how, pause. Matter of fact, verse 15. 7 and 15. We're going to tie it. Praise y'all for it. According to the days of thy coming out of the land of Mizraim, will I show unto him marvelous things. Remember, we talked about this. So he said, according to the days of your coming out. We were shown marvelous things with Yahushua according. Remember, this line up with this. He resurrected from the dead. He rose people from the dead. He healed the sick. You got to remember, he said, I will show you marvelous things. Just like the day you came out of Mizraim. We were shown marvelous things. Whether it was the feeding of the people in the wilderness, just like Yahuwah fed the people in the wilderness, just like we looked at it, right? Yahuwah fed the people bread in the wilderness. He gave them manna. Yahushua fed the people bread in the wilderness. He gave them regular bread. Yahuwah fed the people with flesh in the wilderness. Yahushua fed people with flesh in the wilderness. He gave them fish. He got to do the same thing. He resurrected, like I said, resurrected people from the dead. He healed the sick. He healed the lame. He opened the eyes of the blind. Unstopped the ears of the deaf. Opened the mouths of the mute. Cast out unclean spirits. And one place in the Gospels it said we've seen marvelous things, strange things this day. And then the last and most greatest marvelous thing that they saw this man die on a stake, and 3 days later he resurrected from the dead. Just like he came up out of Mizraim, which is the work to subdue, to cause a separation. We know what Romans 8 and 1 say. He condemned sinful flesh in the flesh. He subdued it with his own flesh. That's why I mentioned that before, that he spared not his own son. Chasten thy son while there is hope, and spare not for his crime. If thou beat thy son with the rod, you will spare his soul from hell, from Sheol, from the grave. It was the work that was to subdue, to cause a separation. So again, it's still taking us back to the same common theme. Your labor is to subdue your flesh. Your labor is to sacrifice your flesh so you can become separate and come in communion with Elohim. If you are not willing to do that, the Ruach HaKodesh will never dwell present with you, because you are not willing to yield your will to Elohim. So you have to be willing to submit your will to Elohim. Yahushua said clear day in the 6th chapter of John, about the 29th or 30th verse. He said, I did maybe a little lower than that, maybe about 35, 36. He said, that I didn't come down from Shamahim to do my own will. I came to do the will of him that sent me. I did not come down from Shamahim to do my own will. This is the key component that each and every single one of us must understand. You are not manifested on this physical plane to do your own will. You are here for one reason and one reason alone, and that is to do the will of your Elohim. Hear the conclusion of the matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. Offer yourself as a living sacrifice. This is your reasonable service, that you may prove out which is that good, perfect, and acceptable will of Elohim. He formed you for his esteem. So you're not here to do your own will. The minute that we can understand and realize that, then we would have learned the work to subdue yourself, to be separated. Matter of fact, Let's read this here, and then I'm going to pull that John 6. The nation shall see and be confounded at all their might. They shall lay their hand upon their mouth, and their ears shall be deaf. Just like they were amazed that centurion said, truly this is the son of Elohim. They were confounded. They saw it. The same way they saw us coming up out of Mizraim, they saw us coming up out of Mizraim when he was on that stake. They saw it. They beheld that power, so his name could be declared throughout the whole earth. They shall lick the dust like a serpent. Remember, licking the dust like a serpent? Paul, Genesis chapter 3. And when you licking your dust up like a serpent, that means just like it said in Psalms, your name is written in the earth. If your name is written in the earth, you're going to hell. Yah forbid any of y'all names be written in the earth. Yah permit your name be written in Shamahim, which would mean it's eternal. Understand the difference. Genesis 3 and 14. Listen what he say. And Yahuwah Elohim said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field, and upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. See, come back to Micah chapter 7. So he said, your enemies will lick dust like a serpent. So he's referencing the law. So they're going to eat the earth. Satan is cursed to go to hell. Ain't no salvation for him. He lost it. He's done. He ain't get no retry. He was done right then. His name written in earth, he's starred, he's done. This is why he said, come over here on the left-hand side, enter in the fire prepared for the devil and his malachim, for his angels. Because the nations are going to lick up dust like a serpent. So when you see this here in Micah, this is dealing with those who are cursed, which takes us back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago with that desire. Or last week, my apologies. Your God is your belly. You mind earthly things. Because you going on your belly like your daddy, and you eating up dust like your daddy, so therefore you scarred. It is all the same word, referencing the same things. Excuse me. They shall lick the dust like a serpent. They shall move out of the holes like worms of their rats. They shall be afraid of Yahuwah Elohim, and shall fear because of thee. Who is an Elohim like unto thee? Remember, he said that in Exodus. That pardon the iniquity, and pass by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage. He retained not his anger forever, because he delight in mercy. He will turn again, he will have compassion upon us. He will subdue our iniquities, and cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. Thou wilt perform the truth to Jacob, and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. He said he will subdue all your transgressions. Let's look at that word for subdue. He said he will subdue them. Let me get ready. It's 11, almost 11. 2 minutes short. The word for subdue in this particular word is koach. That's what we have. And you know, pretty much the subject, to subdue, to force, to keep under, to bring into bondage, to make subservient. So if he's going to subdue your iniquities, let's look at 2 Corinthians 10 and 3. He's going to subdue your iniquities and cast your sins into the sea. So he's going to make it, bring it into bondage, or make it subservient. Remember, he took captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. So now, if this power is made known, it's to cause you to be subdued. And we'll deal with that word on tomorrow, because we're going to bring this subduing back up. Yahuwah willing. 2 Corinthians 10 and 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Elohim to the pulling down of strongholds. Understand that pulling down the stronghold of Pharaoh, our weapon in that war was not carnal. Your weapon was Elohim in pulling him down, which is the seed that destroys the chaos. The chaos that he was emitting was destroyed down by the word of Elohim. If you want the strongholds in you to be pulled down, then you need to use that seed or that word to destroy that chaos that is within you. Which means you got to allow the power of Elohim to be manifest upon you, that his name may be declared. which means you need to allow the work that will subdue you to cause you to separate. That work is the sacrifice of Elohim, which we see with the ending with that work in Misraim with the sacrificing of the firstborn of the Egyptians. Verse 5, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Mashiach. So if he's going to subdue your iniquity, they're being subdued because the word is in you. So now those things that have caused you to go contrary, they're now subdued. They are subservient. You have brought into subjection your mortal body. Just so when we look at it in Romans 6, don't let sin reign in your mortal bodies. Now that you being free from sin and a friend of righteousness and all of these things, you are because, and on top of it, it's because you delight in the word. You joy in it. Therefore, you look at the joy that is set before you, so you endure. You endure. We talked about this last week, right? Baruch is he that endured temptation, right? And he said there's no temptation uncommon to man, but in every situation Yah makes an escape. Because we had this conversation with Will yesterday, right? Just sit back and look at it, thinking in the general aspect. If you married to somebody, how would you know that Yah ordained it? Well, if you weren't supposed to be with that person, Yah would make an escape. He would make an escape. If it wasn't of him, you would have had an exit. And if you can look at the person you married to, and you seen that there was an exit for you to flee, then you know you weren't supposed to be with him. If there was never an exit door open where you could run out of it and flee, then you were supposed to be with that person. I'm talking about dealing with if you got married before the word. Most of y'all were married before the word. I know if I was to be married, then yeah, y'all sent that person. If I was married to somebody who wasn't strong in the word, that mean I chose that person myself. I did that on my own. Because we know the book say that Yah give a prudent wife come from him. I couldn't see myself married to somebody who wasn't a prudent woman. A wise, understand. I couldn't see it. Not me. I can't see it. I can't even fathom it at this point in time. Even previously, it's a lot of person to grow into that because I ain't in no rush. Not on that. Not when it comes to the word. What is you rushing for? Niggas only rushing because they horny. It's the only reason why niggas rushing for. Because you don't want. Niggas don't be wanting. And this talking about women or men. This ain't no neither one gender. People be rushing because I don't want to find out if this nigga wicked or not. I don't want to know. Because I'm horny. I want a companion. I want somebody to go on a date with. I want somebody to have something to do. So I don't care if they wicked or not. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to find out. That's why they be speed. Then get married and find out, oh, he's wicked. He's not who I thought he was. He was who he was that the whole time. She was that the whole time. You were just in such a hurry. You didn't wait to find out. You didn't care. You didn't care. Our people don't be caring. I done seen it on the book too long, too many times. All these single sisters out here. It's a lot of brothers out. All nigga worry about is getting married. Nigga don't care if a nigga righteous. All the nigga care about is if he look the part, if he show up on the Shabbat. Nigga don't really care if it's in his heart. Nigga don't really care if she's got a joy for the word. Will she submit to me and will she cook my meals? That's all these niggas care about. They don't care if she got wisdom. They don't care if she got understanding. They don't care about none of that before you look at the secondary attributes of their character naturally. Because you need to look at the first attributes, which is the character of Elohim in them. That's the first thing you need to look at. Then you look at the secondary attributes of their character and their personality. You know what I'm talking about? But niggas ain't trying to figure none of that out. Niggas ain't even looking at the second part, the second attributes. They ain't even doing a thorough examination on the first ones. You call yourself such and such Israel. You gave yourself a Hebrew name. You wear garments. Where you go out on the Sabbath? Can I teach you? That's all they care about. Girl, he teach me the word. That's all they care about. That's all they care about. There's no examination of righteousness. There's no inspection of the fruits of Elohim. They don't care about none of that. And then the next thing you know, nigga like to say, oh, she wicked, bro. Well, shoot, you should have took your time, you stupid bastard. I hope you enjoyed. That's what you wanted. And it's all indicative of our people as a whole. as a nation of people. That's how we operate. I don't really want righteousness, and I don't want to find out that they're not righteous. Then when you find out that they're not righteous, now you mad. But you're really mad at yourself because you're not righteous, and now you've been exposed for being an idiot. That's if you know better. I ain't talking about if you got your left foot in and your right foot out, or you don't know. I'm talking about if you know better. If you know better. Or you professing that you know better. That's what we talking about. Don't be a fool. There never been no rush. One thing for certain, two things for sure. Reading this word, one thing I learned. Yahuwah ain't never been in no rush. That's a patient man. That's a patient man. He ain't never been in no rush. But we sure seem to be in one. And in my opinion, the rushing is from either lack of confidence in what you got going on, or you just really trying to fulfill your will, and you just disregarding everything that's going around you because what you want to do is more important. So nevertheless, let's get that Romans 16 out of the way. Everything in our life should be to the fulfilling of this man's will. Every prayer that we make ought to be hope. That's why he tell you that if in the epistle of Apostle John, like, if it be according to his will. Because you could ask this man for things and it don't be according to his will. I had told Will yesterday, there was a situation where nigga used to get mad at me because I would say, y'all willing. And they couldn't understand what you mean. Because if it's not his will, it's not his will. It's just, you know what I'm saying? And there ain't nothing you can do about that. If it's not his will, it's not his will. That's if you are subdued or in captivity or in bondage to him. It's another reason when we talk about the prisoners of hope. You subdued. See, that work subdued you. You done came under the mighty hand of Elohim. We'll go to Philippians 3 and 18 after this, Romans 16 and 17, I guess, or 18. For they that are, 17, now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. For they that are such serve not our master Yahushua HaMashiach, but their own belly. So again, there's the lack of being subdued and serving your own will. Because see, if you serve your own belly, then you that serpent licking up dust, and you cursed, and you going to hell. See, that's the danger of serving your own will. Because you need to sit back and look at it. You eat dust. Your name is written in the earth. You need to transfer your brain to look at it in that aspect. When you read Genesis 3 and 14. When you read Micah 7, 9 and 10. They like the serpent licking up the dust. Your name written in the earth. Your name written in the earth. You cursed. Because your God is your belly. You're cursed. You didn't allow the word to subdue you, to separate you. Yahushua worked the work to separate you. He worked the work to separate you. He subdued himself to separate you. And the power of Elohim was made known in him. And his name is declared in the earth. Because we finna get it wrap it up. I think y'all got the gist. But I still need to hit a couple things, man. For they that are such serve not the master Yahushua HaMashiach, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. For your obedience is come abroad unto all men. I am glad therefore in your behalf, but yet I would have you wise unto that which is good, and simple concerning evil. And Elohim and Shalom shall bruise Hashatan under your feet shortly. The grace of our master Yahushua HaMashiach be with you. Amen. Step on your enemies. Right? Step on them. Your enemy is in subjection now. Your enemy has been subdued. Because that's what it means to put your foot on somebody's neck. I've vanquished you. I've conquered you. I have defeated you. You're under my foot. You have been subdued under the power of my might. He said, if I would have came and did the work that no other man did, they would have not had sin. He came and did the work. That work was to subdue himself under the mighty hand of Elohim. This is why he say, humble yourself under the mighty hand of Elohim, and he will exalt you in due time. If you allow the work to subdue you. He will separate you and say, enter into my kingdom, prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Because you would have endured the state, you would have endured the suffering. Because of the joy set before you. The city made of pure gold. The streets made of pure gold. The gates. No death, no tears, no pain. Your enemies no longer able to open their mouth and speak not nary word against you. What do I need now? Philippians 2 and 5 first, and then Philippians chapter 3. It's just something to consider, man. Just something to wait. You know, in Ecclesiastes it says, truly the light is sweet. Truly to be joined to Yahuwah is sweet. Truly it is. So that's why I say the perspective, and like I said, I'm going to ask y'all about it. Y'all willing on tomorrow. That's why I can understand the perspective of everything emanating from that. Because if the man is joined to Yahuwah and Yahusha, and then you have a woman who's seeking to or is joined to Yahuwah and Yahusha, and then they join together, without question, that's a power unstoppable, because you got 4 people or 2 actual people inside the Father and the Son. So you have that power being manifested through 4 people. The Father, the Son, that husband, and his wife. Then if Yahuwah be merciful, it's manifested in his children. And we don't look at it from that aspect. We don't look at it from that aspect. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very powerful. That's why I say I can understand that perspective. It's a very, very powerful thing. And truth be told, it's 99.9% of what it should be. Because most of us know that there's a lot of decisions that we wouldn't have made if we would have knew the word at a younger age. But you needed to be able to go through that and work those works, so when the word manifested itself, that you could be able to be subdued. See, but praise be to the Lamb, your children won't have to go through that, hopefully, because you've already done that for them. Hopefully none of your children would choose to go outside of the way. Only Yahuwah knows. Only Yahuwah knows. Yah forbid that any of them would. But you done already. But to get to the point where you could properly train your children not to go outside the way, you needed to be outside of the way so you could be subdued. Then after that, you can separate yourself. Ephesians. I'm in Ephesians and I want Philippians. Why is it in Ephesians? Why? Philippians 2 and 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua HaMashiach, who being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Elohim, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient unto death, even the death of the stake. Wherefore Elohim also highly exalted him, and gave him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Yahushua every knee should bow, of the things in Shamahim, and the things in their rats, and the things under their rats, and that every tongue should confess that Yahushua HaMashiach is master, to the esteem of Elohim Abba. So he subdued. So the name of Elohim is made known because of the power of killing his son and subduing him by that word, to cause that separation, that we could become the sons and daughters of Elohim. When we look at Philippians 3, right, and we look at about verse 21, we'll look at verse 19. Say, for our behavior is in Shamahim, from whence we look for the Savior, the Master Yahushua HaMashiach, who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his esteemed body, according to the work whereby he is even able to subdue all things unto himself. So he is able to bring into captivity everything to himself. All because this man set these plagues in his heart, in his mind. He considered, remember, he endured the stake for the joy set before him. So these plagues caused him to consider in his mind. See, Pharaoh was supposed to consider, but see, Yah hardened his heart. Pharaoh was supposed to look at these plagues and consider and humble himself. And he refused to do so. Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 7. You're probably about verse 9. You got to get ready to slide on out. Hebrew 5 and 9. Well, 5 and 7. Well, 5 and 8 actually. Let me just take it straight to the point. He said, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. So he learned obedience by being subdued. He had to learn obedience. The work of suffering is how he learned obedience. This is how he learned to be subdued. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. So now you being subdued, and now you being separate. And again, this is taking us all the way back to the what? The shaman, of the oil. Because you had to consume the blood of the seed. And that seed had to destroy the chaos. So you could be joined to a power that can't be stopped. Which y'all willing, we'll deal with the light more on the morrow. And now you're dealing with what? The power of the head joined together to the Most High. See, that's the aspect of y'all willing that we're going to look at when we look at the light. Now when the light is being brought about, we're going to be looking at once that power is made known and his name is declared, and we can get Luke 20:24 and 44 right now, and that name is declared, then men can join themselves to the Most High, and now his light can be made manifest because the Son of the living God, because Elohim is in you. See, we want to make Elohim manifest just by his word, and it's good because all people be saved by preaching, but you need to make sure that he's manifest in you because he lives in you. Which is going to take us back to what we're talking about subduing yourself, and a question that I have to ask every one of you. Luke 24 and 44. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the Torah of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. Then opened he their understanding, that they might understand the scriptures. And he said unto them, thus it is written, thus it behooved Mashiach to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day. It behooved him that he had to take these plagues. He considered these plagues. Remember, I lay my life down on myself. No man take it from me. He considered the plagues before the plagues were even on him. He considered them. And he allowed himself that work to be done to him so he could be subdued. When he was in that instance where he said, Father, let this cup pass, but not my will be done, but thy will be done. He decided that this work has to happen. I have to be subdued. How else will they be separated? How else will they be separated from sin? How else will they be separated from death? How else will they be separated from sinners? Remember, he said he is separate from sinners. Kadesh, harmless and undefiled, entered into the Kadesh and Shamahim to forever make intercession on your behalf. And that repentance and remission of sin should be preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these things. And behold, I send the promise of my Abba upon you, but tarry ye in the city of Jerusalem until you be endued with power from on high. And he led them out as far as to Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and baruched them. And it came to pass, while he baruched them, he parted from them and carried up into Shamahim. And they worshiped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continual in the temple, praising and baruching Elohim. Amen. And you know it says in Matthew 28, teach all the nations everything that I taught you. Proclaim the name of Yahuwah. Because when you proclaim the name of Yahushua, you proclaim the name of Yahuwah. Therefore, his name is known in the earth. Why? Because Mashiach is our Passover being sacrificed for us. So the same way the name of Yahuwah was magnified at the first Passover, the name of Yahuwah was magnified at the real Passover. And his power was made known in his Son. And that power was the koach, or the work to subdue, which causes a separation. And why did that occur? Because of the oil. And I didn't even get to that this evening. So that means I have to transfer that Matthew 25, y'all willing, on in the daytime portion of the Shabbat. So let me lead and finish off with Acts chapter 5. It'll still work. Praise the Lamb. Because you know everything's a setup for the next thing. and close everything out. Y'all wouldn't on the Shabbat and be done with the matter. Make it Acts 5 and 27, 26. Then went the captain with the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people lest they should be stoned. And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, saying, Did we not straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey Elohim rather than men. The Elohim of our fathers raised up Yahushua, whom you slew and hanged on a tree. That is the work, the subduing, to cause the separation. That is the consuming of the blood of the seed. That is the seed. Also, we finna see destroying chaos. So that two or a pair could be joined to the power that can't be stopped, which will bring forth that light, which is the strength of the head, which we know the strength of the head. Remember, my grace was made perfect in weakness. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Trust in Yahuwah's everlasting strength. So the strength of the head was his faith, which caused you to be joined together to the Most High, because he laid his life down for his friends. Him have Elohim exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Yasharal and forgiveness of sin. There is the seed destroying the chaos. And we are as witnesses of these things, and so is the Ruach HaKadosh, whom Elohim have given to them that obey him. And there's those who are joined to the power that can't be stopped, which is the strength of the head, joined to the Most High, which is the light. So, and we, like I said, we're gonna get to the light more in depth on tomorrow. So we can see, to get to the light, Yahushua has to be sacrificed. That sacrifice caused death and sin to be destroyed, which allows you to be joined to a power that can't be stopped. Which leading to, and then we could look at the aspect of Yahushua's faith. Yahushua's faith. Because that was the strength of the head, was his faith, his trust, and his joy. Those two things right there. Those two things right there cause him to be joined together to the Most High, which is why he said, I and my Abba are one. And if we want to be joined together to the Most High, then we need to put on Yahushua HaMashiach and make no provisions for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof, so that we can be joined to that strength of the head, so we can be joined to the Most High. So hallelujah for Yahushua. And we will stop right there.